Now, I'm especially excited about today's guest. Corey Haines is the founder of Swipe Files and the co-founder of Conversion Factory, where he spent years helping SaaS companies improve how they approach growth, content SEO, conversion optimization, and demand generation. Many marketers know Corey from Swipe Files, one of the most respected marketing communities and newsletters in the industry. But what makes his work especially interesting today is how he's rethinking marketing in the age of AI. Instead of viewing AI as another tool in the stack, Corey has been breaking marketing down into individual skills and workflows that agents can execute and humans can just refine. Through his open source marketing skills library and consulting work, he's helping teams answer some really important questions. And there's three of them. Number one is, what should AI own? Number two is, what should humans still own? And number three is, how do you design a marketing function that actually gets stronger over time? And in today's session, Corey's going to walk us through how he sees the modern marketing lifecycle in 2026. We're going to cover everything within that along the lines of, workflows, Claude skills, agent systems, and perhaps most importantly, where us humans will sit in between all of that. When it comes to judgment, creativity, and strategic thinking, where it matters most. So if you ever wondered, how should I actually be using AI in marketing? What new workflows can be automated? Or what an AI native marketing team looks like in practice? This session is for you. So hopefully you have some open docs or, if you're going analog with a notebook and pencil, whip that out. This one's going to be extremely useful. Corey, welcome to Coach by TripleDart. We're excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm always happy and excited to do these workshops, these live demos. I'm not a huge fan of going through like a bazillion slides talking about things in theory. And so today I'm just going to be showing like very practically some demos and going to be using AI. So I have to kind of caveat this with that because I'm working with AI and doing things live that sometimes there's little hiccups. So be patient. And we're gonna like knock on wood, hopefully none today. But the funny thing about AI too is that it's non-deterministic. And so even though I've done the same kinds of demos and I've stress tested them with my own skills 1,000 times, each one is just a little bit different. So you never know what you're going to get today. So yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I will share my screen and we can dive into this. So I'm going to be going back and forth between a couple of different spots here. I'll just kind of orient us on what we're doing, and then I'll give you some background as well. So this is my terminal. I'm going to be working out of Claude Code in my terminal. Don't be afraid. Like, don't check out if you're like, oh my gosh, the terminal. Like, I'm not going to use the terminal. It's not that scary. The terminal is actually your friend. And the reason why I want to use the terminal today is because anything you can do in Claude Chat or in Claude Cowork or any other environment, maybe like OpenClaw, for example, you can do in Claude Code. The reverse is not necessarily true. You can't do the same things in Chat or in Cowork or in OpenClaw that you can in Claude Code. And so I wanted to start here with Claude Code because that gives us the most amount of options. I can demo the most amount of things. I can really show the full power of how to use skills within a coding environment like Claude Code. So we have everything at our disposal. I'm also going to be switching over to my browser and I can show this little demo SaaS that I have for us to work with. It's called Formcraft. It's a fictional form builder SaaS for us to be able to play with. And this is our sandbox, if you will. And there'll be a couple links that I'll go through here too. So maybe let me just start really quickly by kind of telling the story of how I created the marketing skills. If you haven't seen them before, or maybe you're just like, oh, I thought those were just like free skills that Claude put out because they're just called marketing skills. Nope, I named them marketing skills, very generic, kind of an SEO play, actually. Um, this website is just a link over to the GitHub repo. Again, if you're not familiar with GitHub, GitHub is just a repository store of files and documents, usually for coding. But I think in this AI um, era, right? This AI native world that we're living in, GitHub is going to be play a really big role in being like the hub for a lot of documents and files and mini apps and skills, essentially like a source of truth for a lot of people because it's such a great way to store things in a safe way where we have version control, for example. Um, so these are the marketing skills repo in here. You don't really need to know a ton about GitHub. All I need to know is that this is where like the source of truth is for where this information is coming from for the marketing skills, which I'll demo. Really cool milestone. Just wanted to shout myself out and give myself a pat in the back if you don't mind. Just past 30,000 stars, already almost up to 32,000 stars on GitHub, which has been incredible because I really did not anticipate this whatsoever. The story is that, 3 years ago, I started my B2B SaaS marketing agency called Conversion Factory. Um, I had been getting so many asks for doing consulting and working with different startups that I thought, you know what, I've been resisting this for a long time, but let me just start an agency so that I can actually scale myself. And so I started the agency in July in 2023. In August of 2023, I went to a 2-week coding boot camp. But a coding boot camp was kind of a generous term for it because I literally just flew to some guy's house off of Twitter that I knew with 9 other strangers. And he taught us how to code in his garage by just like walking us through things screen by screen. And for quite literally like 14, 15, 16 hours a day, I was just coding in a garage outside of Atlanta and I learned to code. Now, why do I mention this? Because while we were in um, I was in Atlanta at this coding boot camp. That's where I started to discover some of these first agentic AI tools. Uh, we're playing around with coding editors and these things called IDEs, right? These are things like VS Code and Atom, and there's a few others. And then someone while we were there was like, "Hey, I just found this IDE that has ChatGPT inside of it so you don't have to copy and paste things back and forth, when you're trying to debug things." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome. I want that." It was called Cursor. So it was one of the early users of Cursor and also the original, one of the OG like button mash, accept all vibe coders. And so I started building SaaS as well, not just marketing SaaS, but also building SaaS and building products. Since then, I've probably built like 15 tools, five of which I've launched publicly and make money. One of them quite substantial revenue. So I just wanted to lay the groundwork that number one, like I'm not just here to talk about in theory. I also want to show you, but also all these skills are born out of real needs for workflows that I've found, not just marketing things for my clients, but also marketing my own tools and products as well. So you know that this is not just something that was uh, not just some AI slop that was whipped together really quickly. So I'm using Cursor, I'm vibe coding, I have my agency, right? In my agency, I am turning everything that I possibly can into an SOP. And I'm storing it in Notion. It's step-by-step tutorials. Here's how to do this, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. Because that's, you kind of live and die by your SOPs when you're running a service business because you need them to be repeatable and to be on point, right? You need like actually really good processes. That's essentially the product that you sell as a service business. Um, Fast forward unto about December last year, January of this year, Anthropic comes out with this new protocol called Skills. And Skills is the kind of final evolution of a few different things that I've seen where we had Cursor rules, which was a way to kind of bake in these prompts and make the agent be able to route to different prompts depending on what you're working on. Like if you're working on more front end stuff, if you're debugging, if you're doing back end stuff, if you're working with specific frameworks. Um, we've seen a lot of different iterations of this, but then I saw skills, and skills was like, okay, this is going to be the way that we save these prompts and these things to help the agent get better output. And I immediately knew, oh, this is how I'm going to tell the agents how to do marketing the way that I want to do marketing. Because what I was doing before that was I was quite literally feeding the AI agents like chapters of my books, and every single time trying to like load the context of like, look, here's how we write a newsletter. Look, here's how I write for a landing page. Look, here's how I think about programmatic SEO. Look, here's how I think about keyword research. And doing that every single time was so tiring. And so I just knew, okay, skills are a way to hard code in these prompts at a system level that the agent can use and follow these long chained tasks so that I don't have to have like sequences of prompts, right? Which requires a lot of time on my end. Now the agents can actually take what's in my brain, download it into their brain permanently, and then access it anytime. So that's the idea of a skill. I think that skills are here to stay, and it's really important to understand how a skill works. So I'm going to open one up and just talk through it really quickly because what ends up happening is that um, we tell the agent to use a skill, it gives us an output, and then it feels like magic. And you're like, oh, this is cool. But you have no idea what happened. It was just like, whoop, wave the magic wand, and then great, now I have a better output. It's important to understand how a skill actually works. And I get this question a lot where people are like, hey, how do I get the most out of your copywriting skill, for example? And I say, I always have two answers. For one, read it. It's just a markdown file. So it's just a bunch of text. You can go through and read what's in the skill. Number two, ask the agent how to use the skill, and the agent will read the skill and figure out how to best use it, right? So it's not that hard. It's not very complicated, but it's important to know what's happening under the hood because this is like the engine and the steering wheel for the AI agent on what it's going to do for us. So you'll see that there's the name, the description, the metadata. This is called the front matter. This is essentially how the skill gets invoked, and then the context that the agent starts to get to know about why the skill is being used. And then we have some preliminary stuff. So before writing, and I'll talk about this more in a second, we always have the first prompt or instruction on checking another skill called product marketing. And I'll go over this one next. But this essentially fills in the context that it needs to know in order to do the copywriting the best that it can. And now we get into the actual prompts. So we have copywriting principles, we have writing style rules, we have best practices, page structure framework, calls to action copy guidelines, page specific guidance. You can see here that we can fit a good amount of content into one file. And then whatever we can't fit into this file, each skill file is actually a folder. And so you can put other subfolders inside of here to nest more information inside. So if I want it to brainstorm headlines for me, for example, I can tell it to reference the copy frameworks reference. And then I'm going to have all these headline formulas pre-baked into here. And you can put as many of these in here as you like. In fact, I really want to beef this up at some point. There's just a million things on my to-do list. So that's what a skill is, and that's how that works. If I go down here to product marketing, I'll open this up because I noticed that what was happening was every single time I wanted to use a skill, it would ask me the same questions. It'd be like, okay, well, in order for me to do good copywriting for you, tell me about your customers. Tell me about your market. Tell me about your product. What are your main differentiators? How would you say you're better or worse? What are your value propositions? Do you have any testimonials? All the same fundamental, foundational level stuff about positioning, messaging, targeting, product strategy, right? Those are all things that I don't want to have to answer every single time. And so now in the front of every skill, it says check the product marketing context file first. And so this skill creates a file that answers all those questions and it'll walk you through it where we get through things like the product overview, target audience, personas, problems and pain points, your competition, differentiation, right? Every single important thing. And then I even have a specific template for it to fill out the document. And that way you're never like straying off course with what the AI agent knows about you. All right. This is a lot of talking about skills. I want to show you skills. Um, we're going to be working out of Cloud Code in the terminal again. If you're not familiar and if you feel like you want to do this, I actually made this site called Coding for Marketers, and it's a step-by-step tutorial on how to get up and running with an agentic tool like Cloud Code in a coding environment like your terminal. And there's a quick start guide here, and it just goes over the basic, one, two, three, four of how to get up and running here. It's really not that complicated. And if you get stuck at any point with some kind of error or there's some sort of nuance with your computer, I would say, look, just take a screenshot of it, feed it to ChatGPT or Claude in the browser, and then it'll probably help you troubleshoot and walk you through it successfully. So there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to go over all of it right now on best practices and how to use something like Cloud Code and what it's actually doing under the hood. But let's jump in here for the sake of time. So what I'm going to tell it is, let's start the demo now. Let's start with the copywriting skill to redo our homepage for Formcraft step by step before you implement. I've got a little typo there. Doesn't really matter. So one of the other things that I love about working out of the terminal is that it's going to actually show you what it's doing. Um, we're going to see here in a second that it's going to start to show the logs of all the terminal commands that it's using. And that really helps to understand like what is it actually doing and actually learn a ton about how coding works just by watching it go. Um, okay, so it's going to say step by step, we're going to set the stage, establish the product marketing context first. That's what it wants us to do. Okay, so what I'm going to have it do is we are going to start skill stacking and using multiple skills together. You're going to say, you're right. Product marketing context for the sake of this demo. The blanks. We'll continue with copywriting. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to keep things pretty short and sweet and try to skip through some things. But again, you can take all the time in the world to massage out every little kink and nuance here. It's just for this, I'm trying to go quickly because time escapes us, especially when we're watching the agent do things, because it takes a little bit of time in between each one. This is what I was talking about with the gobbledygook of terminal commands. We can see first that it successfully invokes the product marketing skill, which is great. And then it was doing a bunch of things where I was searching for specific files and documents. It's making some folders here, and this is where things get tricky. Is every time I start the demo, it does things in a little bit of a different order, or says that I need to do certain things versus don't need to do certain things. Um, so we're going to give it a second to play out here, and I can always jump between other screens if we need to fill some time. The other fun part about doing live demos is that sometimes Anthropic has a little bit of downtime, or they're just a little bit slow at that point. They're throttling or GPU usage to other models, and so things can get a little bit delayed. But we'll see if it can wrap this up here in a second. Here we go. So it wrote a file for us called product marketing. And now you can see that this actually lives under this folder called .agents. You'll notice this is that when you install the skills, which the instructions are down here at the bottom. If I just go over here really quickly so you understand. Instructions are right here. All you have to do is put this into your terminal. Once you're up and running inside of it, you can even just ask Claude, hey, Claude, download Corey Haines's marketing skills. and then it'll go do a web search and find this and run these commands for you. And then when you install the skills, they actually get downloaded locally on your computer. So they're now your files, essentially, that you can customize, personalize however you'd like to. And they get saved in this folder that you can't even access from your Finder or from your File Explorer. You can only manage it by opening it up through the terminal. So it's kind of hidden in that sense, but it's always accessible to you in your computer no matter where you are. So here's the summary. It's given me actually an abbreviated version of what it wrote here in the document because that's what I asked for. And you can see that it's making some assumptions here, but this is the type of thing you would expect to see if you were to run the product marketing skill on your product. You can feed it your website, you can feed it 100 different documents or anything in between. It's going to take whatever you give it and it's going to collate it, organize it into something that we're going to use, structure it in a specific way for the product marketing skill. So I'll say, great. Now let's run the copywriting skill. Plan before implementing. It's invoking our copywriting skill now. And what's funny is, we're sitting here, we're waiting like 90 seconds for the output here. It's still like incredibly fast. I find myself already being so spoiled. Um, it's like you forget how much it's actually doing. And because it's so magical, every second that goes by is just like this, like, oh my gosh, okay, it's about to happen, it's about to happen, about to happen. I have no patience for it whatsoever. But really under the hood, and there's some workflows that we'll go through here in a second that like would quite literally take me days or weeks or months, and then it does it in a matter of seconds or minutes, and I totally take it for granted. All right, so this is the plan that it's going to come up with how to rewrite the homepage for us. Okay, so you can see right now, because I already have this demo homepage up, it wants to stay with this structure, and I actually don't want it to do that. So what I'm going to tell it is introduce new sections and lengthen the homepage. Please use the page structure instructions in the copywriting skill. On the page. It's going to ask you a ton of questions. So it'll ask you things like, hey, what kind of direction do you want to go to with the headlines? What kind of social proof do you have? Are these testimonials real? What is the tone? Do you want it to be kind of tongue in cheek? Do you want it to be very professional? Do you want it to be a little bit more whimsical and goofy? So there's a lot of room for, again, customization, personalization. This is not going to override your own copywriting styles. And again, the good news here is that you can customize my skills that you download or any skills that you download from the internet. So all you have to tell Claude is, hey, Claude, I see that Corey likes to use a lot of M dashes. I'm actually not a big fan of M dashes. Can you replace the M dash with, commas, semicolons, whatever you'd like to, right? Or just get rid of them altogether. And then Claude will go in, it'll find that .agents slash copywriting.md file or skill, and then it will actually change it so that the next time you use the copywriting skill, it's going to have more of your voice, more of your tone, more of your customization and decisions. All right, so now we're going to go from 5 sections to 10 sections. We're going to have these types of sections on the page, and now it's going to go ahead and begin implementing. Now, this is a good point for me to talk about how it's able to actually change things and rewrite my homepage for me. This is a big, big difference in workflows in AI marketing now. Really, like these AI agents can do anything. It's just a matter of how much access you give them to do those things. So the traditional way I think that we're all used to working on things is that, I work inside of my tool for my website and this, and then my tool for my emails and that, and then my tool for A/B testing and this other thing. And then we switch between the tools and try and essentially bring the context of each of the tools to them to make things cohesive, right? But that's a really slow, cumbersome way of working because uh, I can only do one thing at a time, and I'm already managing a lot of different uh, contexts going between tools, and um, and then I have to go in and make those implementations within the tools. Now AI came along, and then we all started using ChatGPT, and we figured, okay, great. Now I can go into my tool, let's just say Webflow for my website. I can ask ChatGPT for new copywriting, and then I can go in and paste that copy into the page and replace it. Well, that's good, but what if AI just had access to Webflow? What if it had access to your email marketing tool, to your A/B testing tool, to your CRM, so on and so forth? When you actually give AI access to your tools, then they can implement for you and they can handle all the context between the different tools. And now I'm no longer the middleman or the bottleneck between my tools and AI. I'm now the orchestrator and the overseer, and AI and my tools can talk directly to each other. Let's take a look at what it's said, and I can kind of get back on my soapbox here in a second. So the section or the summary here is that all the sections rendered correctly. Here's a summary of the new sections, the voice anchors that were enforced. These are the rules that I was using, and it's telling me that I can go and refresh this page to see the difference. And voila, we can see that there is a difference. Now, the copyright in the previous version was a little bit sparse and pretty bland. I think what you'll find here is that there's nothing here that's going to really sound like AI. There's no AI isms. This is actually good copywriting. Um, and I'm not saying that I'm a genius, like, oh, I've cracked the code on how to get AI to write good copy. I'm just telling it very, very specific things within the skill. And now this is proof that when AI has something so specific within a skill file that it can follow, that it actually gets you good results. And so imagine this across lots of other workflows and lots of other day-to-day things that you do. So I have a good headline here, beautiful forms that convert without the type form price tag. Formcraft is the form builder for small businesses who want time form polish, fair pricing, integrations that don't need Zapier in the middle. Man, this sounds like a cool tool. I want to buy this now. Got some social proof. We've got this little uh, sort of like jab at Typeform where we're kind of setting the stage and naming the enemy and picking a fight. We've got how it works section. We've got a features section. Obviously, we don't have any like illustrations here, but you can fill in the blanks on imagining how cool this would be. We've got a comparison table, testimonials, FAQs, final call to action. And you can see already how much better this feels. Um, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything that looks like an AI-ism to me. And again, I use the M dash. So you're like, oh, but there's a okay, I use the M dash before AI, and I'm going to keep using the M dash. If you're using the M dash with good copy, then it doesn't look uh, like an AI-ism. All right, so let's keep moving forward then. Um, what I want to show next is a couple of more uh, like tactical workflows on how to use marketing. Um, so I'm going to say that's great. Nice job. Give it a little pat on the back. Let's now switch gears and use the content strategy skill. I want to do keyword research using data for SEO and Ahrefs. Creds in. Now you're going to be like, what is this? This is my shell files for my terminal. so that it actually has access to these tools. Now, I made an update. We'll see if it has my credentials. I might need to stop sharing my screen and add those credentials in really quickly. I tested this before, but again, with AI, you just never know. Every session that you spin up could be a little bit different. Um, okay, hallelujah, we've got the creds available. um, so this content strategy skill, I'm telling it like, look, these are the types of content that I want to be writing for. Now, based on these types of content, seed and brainstorm keywords, and then go and actually look for the keyword data and build me a report on this. Yep, four-phase plan. Phase one, the seed list. Phase two, got data for SEO expansion, cluster, Ahrefs validation. Okay, so I'm going to tell it is don't need Ahrefs. This is just a demo. So let's do something quick just with data for SEO. Data that you show here. Okay. I'm going to try to get it to take a shortcut here and just get us back something. And then I can show you how we're going to stack these together with another skill. But this is exactly what I was talking about when we're talking about like giving access to tools. So what I just told it was, hey, I want to use this skill, and then I want you to actually go and do something. And you can do that thing because I gave you the credentials, which I've saved here in my shell. There's many different ways to do that. So don't worry about the details of that too much. There's two tools that I give it access to. Both are SEO tools. One is called Data for SEO. Data for SEO is a very cheap keyword research tool that's only available via API for tools like Claude Code and other agents to be able to access. Ahrefs, I think you probably all know, is a very popular, common just SEO suite of tools in general. And they opened up their API, and so I'm a customer of theirs, and I like to use it. It's way more expensive, so I prefer to also just use Data for SEO for demos like this. But you can, well, the cool thing that it was proposing was it was saying, hey, I can do an initial pass using Data for SEO because it's cheaper. And then I can validate with Ahrefs because Ahrefs has a better, deeper data set. So imagine you can give it access to your SEO tools, to your website, to your email marketing tool, so on and so forth. The more that has access to, the more it can cross-reference and do things with complete, agentic abilities, autonomous abilities. All right. So here's our report. Let's go back up to the top here. This is one of those cases where it's like magic because I don't know how much you guys, if you're an SEO, you know this, but doing keyword research can be really, really time consuming. And so, um, brainstorming keywords, going down different rabbit holes of what are my competitors ranking for? What am I ranking for? What should I be ranking for? What are other, industry blogs and publications writing about? It takes a long time. It just did this in what, 30 seconds, probably less when I was actually pinging the API here. So this is great. Now we have actually real keyword data to go off of and inform all the different strategies that we were talking about with the content strategy skill, which outlines different types of content, different types of pages that are essentially playbooks for us to run on our website. Let's say this is great. Now what we're going to do, and let me finish this with my, it's gonna be a little bit longer. I'll finish this with my voice dictation tool. We're going to stack this skill together with another skill that is the programmatic SEO skill so that we actually have keyword informed data for the programmatic pages we're going to propose generating on the site. So first, let's use the programmatic SEO skill to outline the 12 or all the available playbooks, and you can recommend to me which one fits best. And then we can layer in the keyword data for that playbook that you recommend. A little spoiler here. I know my own skills well. So, um, yes, there are 12 playbooks, but you can just say all the playbooks and then tell me which one is best. And then while that's going, the reason that it was able to rewrite this so fast and so effectively, and even design it as well, really, is because I'm building this in custom code. This is a paradigm I think that's really changing everything, not even just with websites. I think it's changing the way that we all use SaaS tools and what SaaS tools are going to look like in the future. Because it's when it's actually writing custom code here, then it can do everything. It has full control. If I were to give an AI agent even access to something like Webflow via an MCP, for example, it can fill in the blanks, but it's going to have a hard time creating new sections, making design decisions. Um, Webflow is like a few abstractions above the actual code. And so for the agent to do something, it has to figure out how all these abstractions and layers work together to manipulate Webflow to get something like this that it can just do in code because coding is cheap now. Yes, this was like thousands of lines of code, but AI is really, really good at it. So it doesn't matter that it's thousands of lines of code. So it's pretty much inverted. So when you have your emails also in code, when you have your A/B tests or reports or lead magnets or whatever in custom code, AI agents are going to be able to do a lot with them, right? Picking up here with programmatic SEO, here are the 12 playbooks that it's proposing from the programmatic SEO skill. It's going to score each one for me, which is great. And that's exactly what the skill is supposed to do. And it's going to tell me that this templates one is the best fit. You can see that there are a bunch here. Some it doesn't even recommend doing. So that's how, again, you know that the skill is not just turning the AI agent into a yes man to create a bunch of AI slop. It's actually giving you real good recommendations. Here's the reason why we should go with templates and why not these other ones. So I'm going to say, yes, pull the template keyword data. And by the way, that little autocomplete that I did is from a tool called Cotypist, which you probably would all love. I use Monologue for voice dictation, Cotypist for autocomplete everywhere. Let's see if I need to know anything about what's going on here. Yeah. So it's already looking at a couple of keywords and using that to inform, like, oh, hey, yeah, if we already have this data, then this probably is a good fit here. And now we're again showing how loading the AI agent with a ton of context between your tools can help get better outputs. While it's doing this, oh, actually, no, it'll have this in a second. I think the next step we'll have a minute to blab about a couple things. Yeah, order form template. And you can see, for example, that what this is doing is it's writing a Python script to create a table. And it's going to transpose uh, the keywords and kind of the template proposed strategy for programmatic SEO with the data of the keywords. And you can do anything in code. So it can write scripts to do things for you. It can even build mini apps for you. I was just doing that yesterday with like financial planning stuff. The sky's the limit on how it can execute for you. All right. So real data on 42 template variants only cost me 7.5 cents. Search volume across all 42 is estimated to be almost 12,000 visitors per month. We've got these actual files too, so I can just drop in this CSV somewhere else if I want to share this. We have the different categories, Tier one, these are the top recommended ones. Tier two, tier three. All right. So now let's build the tier one pages on the site. So you need to see. Now we're going to have it actually build the pages. And I love showing this because oh, actually, I'm going to say only build 10 for now. I love this because I'm only going to tell it to build 10, but I could have it build 10,000 if I really wanted to. And then it would just run and run and run and run and run and run and run until it was done. So this is super, super scalable, right? Um, and that brings me over to this point here when going back to the site. When you think about this, what are agents good at? What is AI inherently good at? Especially that it's the opposite. What are human beings not good at, right? AI is really good at ingesting a ton of data. I can only hold so much information in my head. I can't even remember to the lyrics of songs that I've heard like 1,000 times. AI can remember quite literally anything and everything that you give it. At least it store it and access it if it needs a couple of seconds. It can also task chain or chain tasks together. And so multiple step things. This is what I was talking about earlier, where instead of having like a sequence of prompts that I have to paste in order to keep the workflow going, it can actually autonomously go through multiple steps together. I could have told it back there, hey, do keyword research, um, use the content strategy, then use programmatic SEO, then build the pages, then use the copywriting skill. And I would have done all those together without stopping or asking me for any questions. It can make changes across multiple files simultaneously, which again, I cannot because I'm a human being and I can only do one thing at once. You can see this too when it starts to do things like using sub agents or spinning up multiple agents in parallel. So when you're making those asks, it can look at the programmatic SEO skill, the content strategy skill, and do keyword research all at the same time. It can also even work between projects. So you can see here that this is one of the repos that I have open. So I could kick this off and get started. Now I can open up one of my other projects, my other repos, open up an agent there, start to kick off a workflow there, and I can have multiple going. This is pretty much my job now is just like managing these agents. Sometimes I'll have 10 going simultaneously, and I'm just kind of clicking back and forth between them. And again, I'm finding myself being the bottleneck, but it's still very productive that way. It's really good at ideation. A perfect example of this is actually keyword research because keyword research is one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. And so, in order to find all the potential keywords that you could be ranking for, you have to search that keyword, see if there's data for it, see what the SERP results are like, and then make a decision on it. But if I don't know what to search for or what keywords might be relevant for my audience, then I'm never going to add that to something for me to target. AI is really, really good at ideating and brainstorming all the possible things for me to do, right? Keyword seeding, it can come up with like 100 ideas in a second and then go and do those searches for me and think of all the different possibilities. And it's also really good at just doing the grunt work, the monkey work, the stuff that no one else wants to do, the stuff that we're really bad at. We're thinking about like, okay, point and click, using these UIs, these user interfaces where we're limited by what we're actually doing with a cursor on our screen. It can do this stuff much better, much faster. Another reason why I like working out of the terminal is because the terminal is just one of the tools that your computer has at its disposal. The browser is a tool. The terminal is a tool that has access to all the tools of your computer. It's kind of like a back door to everything in your side inside of your computer. Or think about it this way, it's like a jailbroken iPod, back in the day, if you really wanted to do some crazy stuff or download, different apps or files or programs. You could jailbreak your iPod, and then it removed all of Apple's restrictions. It's the same idea here. With the terminal can spin up multiple browsers and do headless searches. The terminal can manipulate files on my computer. The terminal can do web search. The terminal can um, use any of the other apps on my computer, right? And so the terminal, because we're building these custom files and processes for us to use, it can write scripts, it can build reports, it can build CSVs, it can do all the things that you need it to in order to get the job done. Whereas, again, I think eventually maybe Claude is going to all converge down into like one app. But for now, we have like Claude, Claude Cowork, Claude Code, and then there's ChatGPT, there's Codex, there's all these different like versions of the same thing. Maybe those will all converge one day. It's probable. But for now, if you really want to have all the tools at your disposal, you want to be working out of the terminal for maximum capabilities. Seeing it write some code here. Once this wraps up, I think I'll wrap up the demo. We can go to Q&A here in a second. This should wrap up here in any moment now. It's essentially creating the template for us to look at and templatizing the page so that it just copies over for the 10. And that's why I gave it just 10, because otherwise it would have to copy over like 100 different inputs for the page template. I'll let this go a couple more seconds here. Let's see if there's anything else interesting for us to talk about here. Um, One of the big realizations I had was that code is just text in files. Like in my head, when people talked about coding and coding agents and what they were doing, I was like, like code seems so mysterious. Where does it live? What is it actually doing? Like, uh, how is it all organized and stored together? Turns out it's like any other file on my computer. It's just files within folders. That's it. That's all that there is. And so anything that you need for it to do is going to end up being a file within a folder. Also, understanding the software stack. I'm really big on understanding things from like a first principles perspective so that you have a better idea of how to use the tools at your disposal. So understanding the differences between, okay, we have the AI providers. These are the ones actually making the models, companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and then they're going to make the models, and we're going to harness those models using these agentic tools like Claude Code, Cursor, Codex, which are then going to work within languages and frameworks like HTML, CSS, Next.js, Rails, Django, Laravel. And then we're going to save all those files within folders in a backed up cloud version using something like GitHub. And then if we want to make them available to other people besides ourselves, then we host it somewhere. And that host is essentially going to drop it onto a computer at some data center, probably in the East Coast of the United States. And then that's going to be available for anyone else to use that code. And this is the same for like a website, right? When you host your website. Okay. It says we've got it live. I think we should just go check it out. Thank you for the warning. Very kind of you. Let's take a look at it. So navigate back over here to Formcraft. We're going to go to templates. I'm going to do a hard refresh, and you can see that it's starting to organize it by category, which is nice. I'm going to view the template. And now this is the page that it generated just from scratch. So we've got this nice little breadcrumbs. We've got an H1 description. We have an actual template, a lot of different content here, related templates. So we have good internal linking strategies, final call to action. And then we have this across, 10 different ones right now, each one targeting a unique keyword for us to to go after, try to rank for, just within a matter of minutes. I have 10 pages ready to scale to hundreds or even thousands. One more thing that I could show if anyone's interested is I can do the SEO audit skill, and that is going to look under the hood at all the code within these pages and find optimizations for adding metadata and JSON LD and make sure that the URL structure is good. I'm going to skip that for now so we have time for Q&A. But hopefully this gives you a good understanding of what's possible with AI agents and what it looks like to actually use one in the terminal to build real things like pages on a website.
Corey, this was awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through that. Breaking down marketing skills live doesn't sound like an easy task, obviously, with all the buffering and everything, but you nailed it. And I agree, we are definitely spoiled with the tools that we have today and, how impatient we tend to get with this sort of magic that is just working uh, in the background, right? During your presentation, we had a couple of questions come in, so let's take 10 minutes to jump into those. This
Sure.
one is from Harini. Hey, Corey, with skills, I've noticed that you can get to almost 80% of the desired output. So, what would you suggest that marketers should bet on and get really good at to sort of AI proof their career, other than AI fluency itself, of course?
hmm Well, I think that you want to be on the forefront of creating and discovering the playbooks and tactics and principles that you would then want to bake into a skill or use AI to execute on, right? So AI proofing yourself to me is not so much about the hard skills necessarily, um, of like what you can do, because now AI is better at all this than anyone here. Um, but it's still up to us to understand, okay, what is the tactic? What are the new things we should be doing? And I think that we all want to be known as someone who can use AI really efficiently, but that we're not just limited to the playbooks that we're used to, that everyone else is running, or the AI is used to running, that we can build new playbooks. So that's how I think about it. But um, obviously, there's a lot of nuance there too.
Cool. This one's from Ryan. Love all of the reference integrations, but it wasn't clear how to make those connections for tools like PostScript that don't have native MCP. Is there a doc you can reference?
Yeah. So a pro tip for sure is if you can go into the marketing skills and you can even just ask Cloud Code for this, is that there you don't have to be limited just to a specific integration. Um, if a or integration method like an MCP, for example, if they have anything, if they have an API, that maybe they have a CLI, maybe they don't have anything, you can also ask Cloud to write an integration for you to be able to pull in the data and ingest it the way that you want to. Um, so you'll see in the marketing skills repo that there's a tools and integrations section. There's actually a bunch of custom CLIs that I've made for tools that only have an API and don't have a CLI or MCP. And that essentially creates a nice little wrapper or a CLI MCP like thing for you to be able to use the API effectively. So you don't have to have the MCP. I also, you can see here that I just gave in the terminal, I just gave it access to the APIs because the API is like pretty well structured. So at the very, very least, if you have an API key, you're in business.
Sounds good. This one's from Abhishek. How do you ensure this doesn't get too expensive? Claude token consumption is crazy.
Yep, I'm on the Pro Max Ultimate whatever plan, so I don't think about it too much myself. Um, I think that the real thing is actually skills help with this because you don't want to burn tokens on AI struggling and making errors and trying to figure out how to use these integrations or how to execute on skills. So skills actually make the AI agents a lot sharper to get you better outputs with using less tokens. And I think that that's pretty much the only thing in our control.
Got it. Got it. This one's from Mohammed. How do you start with your skills without any context prior? I mean, the AI doesn't know anything from my startup from scratch. Does that mean I have to go back and forth with product marketing skills first to build the context for the AI?
Yep. Unfortunately, you have to take about 30 seconds to use the product marketing skill, get it up to speed, and then you're good to go.
Awesome. That wraps it up for questions. I actually have a question myself. Um, you said you in your presentation you were talking about how when integrating, let's say, with like Webflow or something, or making changes to like Webflow, there's so many like
Mhm.
layers that AI would need to like parse through to make the changes and everything. And with what you were executing just now, it was just simply writing the code and producing the website from scratch, right? Because AI is
Mhm.
really good at producing code. Do you think that um, companies like Webflow or other bigger CMS companies are a little bit worried about this whole change
Oh yeah.
in AI? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think that what they're going to be forced to do is essentially build their own Cloud Code-esque engine under the hood for their tools so that you can prompt it and use it the same way that you would within the terminal, like I was just showing. But instead of the output being, in a local host, it's going to be in your Webflow dev, and they're going to be able to chain these skills together and like how they've built their products to let the agents do things the same way. But again, I do worry about that because there are so many layers of abstraction that are kind of unnecessary that it ends up being less effective for the AI agent to build with. Like you kind of want to get down to the bare metal as much as you can. And inherently with those types of products, there's just never going to be the ability to get back to bare metal because otherwise there's no product, right? They're just writing the raw code. Um, but they're definitely worried. There's definitely a lot of pressure. I think that's good for all of us because it means that everyone's going to be making better tools for us all to use. But um, but yeah, it's a tough spot for them to be in it. It's I think that the biggest advantage they have is more like brand familiarity and like user experience. A lot of people are scared of the terminal, right? And so as long as they are, then I think Webflow is okay. But as soon as they're not, and the more people that aren't, then yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah. Do you think that just once people are less scared of the terminal, so many newer websites that are just, spat out from Claude Code or any other AI is just gonna proliferate?
Oh yeah, yep. The same way that we all started writing blog posts with ChatGPT, and then you saw the number of pages explode. I think just the number of websites is going to explode. There's going to be a lot of AI slop out there, right? So that's where it's like up to us to use skills, to use taste, to use expertise, to actually put something out that's good, that doesn't look like AI slop. But 100% the sheer volume is going to probably increase like exponentially.
Wow. It's going to be an interesting couple of years. Cool.
Yeah.
Actually, we have one more question that jumped in. Um, do you always build your own AI
Hmm.
skills, or do you get it from the internet community, or do you get inspired from the internet community?
Yeah. I think it's a matter of like what's missing. So anytime you can, I think it's better to start with someone else's skills that you can find. I didn't show it here, but there's a skills marketplace called skills.sh that is really great. You can do a basic search for anything. Like my fiance made a bunch of skills for cybersecurity, for example. So fill in the blank of whatever you're interested in that you feel like you want to use a skill for, depending on your workflow. You can probably find something, and then you can, at the very least, fork it, customize it, make it your own. If there isn't anything out there, then I like, yeah, go for it. Build your own skill. I build my own skills internally too that are like hyper specific to the way that my companies and my products do things that are not like more generally applicable. Uh, so it's a mix. But yeah, to answer, you can definitely do both.
Cool.